Secretary of the Indian Council of Social Science Research, Professor Shambhunath Singh, Director, School of Journalism and New Media Studies, IIMC. We have with us today as the eminent speaker, Professor Krishan Lal, co-chair IAP for Science, the Global Network of Science Academics. Dr. R. Sridhar, Professor C.P. Singh, Dr. O.P. Deval, Dr. C.N. Nautiyal, and Dr. Girija Shankar Sharma, all eminent educationists from the field of science and mass communication, dignitaries present of the dais, the audience, distinguished scholars from all over the country, and faculty members of Indian Institute of Mass Communication. We also have Shri Mayank Agarwal, Additional Director General, Press Information Bureau, Patna, who has specially come for this event. And dear friends, once again, now of course it is time for farewell, but still a hearty welcome to this particular session. And this is in a way the valedictory session also. And I'm grateful that Dr. Patelia has designed it in such a way that there is more of substance and less of formalities and ceremonials. We have had 2 days of brainstorming sessions, parallel sessions, and I was also privileged to chair one of the sessions. And I believe that most of the participants here had an opportunity to present their papers or be present in 1 or 2 of these seminars and sessions. And I felt that a wide range of issues were dealt with. For example, I was chairing the session on environmental miscommunication. But even in those specific sessions, there were issues related to, science, science communication, related to other disciplines also, and the various aspects. For example, one paper was on spiritualism and science communication. That was pretty interesting. So I'm really glad that a whole range of people coming from interdisciplinary, an entire range of scholarship that we could witness during these 2 days, and many fruitful papers have also which can be later on used as reference material. I found that some papers were really good, and I would request Patelia Saab that when we sit together after this event, then some of these papers can be published in the form of a book, and maybe Indian Institute of Mass Communication, and I would request Dr. Sunitra Narayan, who is also present here, and she's the head of publications. Maybe we can come out with a compendium of papers presented at this seminar in the form of a book. Of course, we can request the authors to broaden the perspective and maybe bring in some new elements to make it turn it into a chapter on science communication. And of course, we have our own research journals, and some of these papers we would be delighted to publish in that. I'm sure that Professor Vijay Parmar, who is also the editor of Communicator, which is our peer-reviewed, nationally acclaimed journal, which is also UGC approved, which Professor Parmar is heading. So we can also publish some of them there. I felt that the quality of papers were very good. The quality of exchange, what I would call idea exchange, that was pretty interesting. And there were a lot of young scholars, along with, of course, veterans and seniors. So there was a kind of an amalgam of, the old and the new thoughts, yet at the same time, enlightenment in the form of, experience which was present. So there was a lot of enthusiasm which I could witness during these 2 days. But at the end of the day, if you put it in a nutshell, the whole idea was, I think the common refrain these 2 days was that science certainly is not being communicated the way it ought to be. And it needs to be communicated in a much more effective manner and in a better language and in a language that would be understood by the relevant audience. Now, when we say masses, it need not necessarily mean that every information has to go to the, only we are aiming at the, say, at the villages. There are information, the whole idea is that relevance. I think that is most important. It's not about communicating to a whole lot of people to whom it is not relevant. So, how is it relevant? I think that is more important. That when we look at it, that is this information relevant for a particular group of people? For example, if we are looking at e-wastage, may not be, I don't think, maybe at this stage, it may not be very relevant to the fisher folk. It may not be relevant to the, people working in agricultural lands in remote areas. But e-waste would be more relevant to an urban audience, which is, very gadget savvy. So they should be told. And there was very good suggestions also which came up during the interactions. For example, that whether the consumer at the time of purchasing a particular electronic item, is he being sensitized? Is he being made aware of how to dispose it? E-waste, how it is being disposed. That is something which has a great impact on our environment. So, at the consumer end and at the producer's end, at the manufacturer's end, at the sale point, is there a communication? And maybe that also we need to really, how much are we talking about these issues which are very, very specific and which are very, very, I would say that catering to a specific audience, are they also being communicated? Because you cannot divorce them, because that's the new knowledge that's coming up. So when we talk about popularizing science, so we should also take into account the new developments, the scientific, the innovations, and how they are relevant to the audience. I think that is at the core of it, that how we are able to communicate information which is relevant to the readership. Somebody asked a very important question during one of the sessions, that when we say that radio has so much of listenership, but what are they listening to? What are they hearing? Radio has but are they the intended audience? Maybe if we are taking, say, information related to farm produce or related to fisheries, are they reaching the target audience? And are the target audience, yes, the target audience is listening, but are they listening to Hindi songs or are they listening to this particular program? I think that also needs to be taken into account. So, I think that just by making sweeping remark that, okay, it is reaching so and so, but what is it that they are looking at? What is it that they are listening to? We have a small experiment out here, that's Apna Radio 96.9, which is a community radio station which we run from here and which we intend to run from all our campuses. Now, there is a program, I think this is the second edition we had recently, and that was on Teen Talk. And this Teen Talk talked about the problems faced by adolescent, adolescents. And they are mostly from government schools, so we work with NGOs, we work with, health specialists from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, from Fortis, and we reached out to them. And we had a session in which, particularly the adolescent girls from government schools, they raised very relevant questions. Like they would say that, and these are the questions that come to their mind, that we are also studying, our brothers are also studying, but our mother expects us to help her in the kitchen, whereas, the boys are just left like that. They're either playing around or they are asked to study. But when it comes to us, we are being told to just first take care of the kitchen, and why it is like that? This is because we have reached out to them. So now they are asking these important questions. So it's important that this kind of an awareness comes about gender equality, gender sensitization, and that is what. But then again, what is the reach of the community radio? We did this program, but how many people listened? So are these viewerships, listenerships, and readerships, are they being analyzed? That is also very important, that they are analyzed. The impact assessment studies are carried out. We have, as I told you at the outset, we have India's first exclusive department dedicated to communication research. Now we have been given a project on the publication division of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. They bring out these yojanas and Kurukshetra and all that. They also carry a lot of science communication. Now we are studying whether who is reading it. Are they reaching the target audience? What is their feedback? So this is the same thing we have done with a project called Jago Grahan Jago, which was with the Ministry of Consumer Affairs. That how many people, governments have been running this campaign, and every year there is a budget allocation for that. They will put that money and the campaign is on. But has it led to greater consumer awareness? I think that is the question. And I don't want to reveal it because it's already, it's something which we have already submitted to them, and it is their property. But, well, I can only tell you that the report or the study was found a very dismal response. It was certainly not up to the mark about consumer awareness. Maybe about weights and measures, they had some kind of people were aware, but about expiry date, a lot of stuff, So I think the same holds true for science communication. Many of our institutions have been, doing it in a very religious, rather I won't call it religious, I would call it more as a ritual. We have been doing this, we have been publishing books. We also had a presentation by Vigyan Prasad. Vigyan Prasad is also doing its job. The Consortium of Educational Communication is there, CEC, which has again Swayam and the MOOC and everything is there. But finally, who are the takers? What about the quality? I think a lot of deliberations took place during these 2 days, but I think that's not sufficient. More needs to be done. So while we are talking about a lot of communication, but as I said yesterday also, that scores of journals are coming out of scientific institutions, science institutions. But who is reading them? And are they reaching, the relevant audience, the relevant information? Because at the end of the day, the success of science communication is when the reader feels that yes, this is the kind of story I would like to read. It should draw your, what you call eyeballs. That is where the success is. And in the absence of this science sensitization, a lot of stories are being dished out. Say China is building a big dam on Brahmaputra, and that is going to lead to big floods. And but that's more based on the hazy reports coming, and rather than any proper scientific impact. And it was, I felt that many of these reportages were more about warmongering, rather than actual substantial issues which were being discussed, or making the citizens aware or alert in the event of any such developments. The same I saw in Uttarakhand floods also. It was more a blame game rather than an actual study of how things went wrong and what went wrong. So I would really be more happier as a communicator if we are able to communicate the relevant information to the target audience, and that is where this synergy between science and communication has to take place. Scientists and communicators have to take place, and This, I believe, is the right forum for communication, and maybe we can consider it on a later date, certainly, of having this conference simultaneously with the Indian Science Congress. I think that this is just a suggestion, by way of suggestion, that simultaneously, we can work with them, and maybe together we can, do it. But nevertheless, I believe that the deliberations were very fruitful, and the conversations that took place, these we are going to carry forward, certainly at our end, from the Indian Institute of Mass Communication, and I'm sure the NISCAR, CSIR, NISCAR is also going to do it. But actually, the real success would be when each one of you who has participated in this takes forward this discourse, this dialogue which has begun to the next level in your own respective institutions, in your own respective media platforms, and let this be a continuous 24/7 into 365 approach, rather than an annual just 2-day jamboree where we all meet and go back our homes, relax that everything is fine with science communication. I think that we have to take it forward, and next year I would measure the success of the 17th Science Communication Congress not in the manner, the number of participants, or the number of, how you like the food, and of course these are important elements, but for me the real measurement would be by next year when we meet, how much more science communication has increased in the country. For me, that would be the real yardstick. Thank you for coming here, and once again a very hearty welcome to all of you, and we look forward to your participation in future events also. And for once again my sincere apologies on behalf of the Indian Institute of Mass Communication for any shortcomings from our end, and we can assure you that your inputs, your feedback will only help us to improve the next time you are here. Thank you.
One expert from Europe, we are connecting him with the sky. Sri Declan, he is Managing Director, ISC, Intelligence in Science, Brussels, Belgium. He is from Belgium. He is connecting with us, and he is going to their expert opinion about science and communicating science. Please welcome.
And I want to congratulate you on organizing this meeting and dealing with what I feel is a very strong dimension to science. Now, I should just make a couple of points, and I hope they will be relevant. So I'll talk about two things really. First is some highlights of what is happening in Europe, and then perhaps I will make some comments on the role of communication strategies for science at global level. So I hope you can hear me okay. I have a slight echo, and I'm Irish, which means we sometimes talk too fast. So you let me know if I'm speaking too quickly. Good. So as I said, it's a pleasure to be with you. And just regarding what's happening in Europe, as you know, probably Europe runs a multi-annual funding program for science called the Framework Program. Currently, we are in the 8th edition of the 7-year funding program for science, and it is known as Horizon 2020. So we don't have time to do a lot of detail here today. So the point I would highlight to you is that the European Union is preparing the next iteration of this program, which will run from 2021 to 2028. So the preparation at the policy level for this programme will begin in 2018 in January, when the institutions start to put forward their broad ideas for what should be funded in terms of European Union science. And that process takes a couple of years. It takes 2 to 3 years for the full programme to be fully agreed, adopted, and turned into legislation in time for funding commitments in January 2021.
The IIP has divided our work into 4 regions. One deals with Europe, other with Africa, third with America, and fourth with Asia and Pacific. And the European Association of Academies, ISA, has already prepared their part of the report, and I am responsible for Asia Pacific. It is within a week or so it will also be ready, and similarly Africa and others are doing. So it's a very important thing that we collaborate with each other. And now at international level, when academies or excellence in science links with UN and their agencies, now a new body has been formed, Science International, in which not only IIP, but ICSU, the International Council of Science, the International Council of Social Science, and TWAS are working together. So we prepare a program where we bring forth this thing. Coming to India, we are very strong in the science, both R&D, and we have institutions like the present where we are having a very important meeting on science communication, the Indian Institute of Communication of Science. We also have the National Institute of Science Communication, NISCARE, and very recently, NISCARE together with INSA and also the Asian Association of Academies organized a very successful international meeting. So in this, there is a lot of scope to collaborate with each other, but also to communicate the main results of science and also to sensitize people on things which are very difficult, like the microbial resistant now diseases and so on. So this is something very challenging, and I appreciate your observation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you. Thank you. Very interesting to learn of those initiatives.
Our chief guest, Professor B.K. Malhotra.
Professor K.G. Suresh, Director General, Indian Institute of Mass Communication, and very distinguished people from the world of academics and scholarship on the dais and also among the audience. It's my great pleasure to be part of this 17th Indian Science Communication Congress, which has selected a very, very pertinent theme, communicating India's scientific wisdom, changing paradigms. Indeed, the kind of efforts and initiatives that are being talked about and the kind of collaborative efforts that have been put in this exercise, which have included CSIR, National Institute of Social Communication and Information Resources, Indian Institute of Mass Communication, Indian Science Writers Association, Vigyan Bharati, Society for Information Science, Indian Science Communication Society, and you have deliberated for 2 days, in fact, on all these issues and talked about where initiatives have been taken, what have been the experiences in those initiatives, and where new initiatives could further be taken in times to come. In fact, the entire world has started to understand this relationship of mutuality of interest. There is a lot of mutuality in the kind of efforts that are being put in these collaborative efforts. As a social scientist, I understand that we were talking of a discipline a few years back. We have started to talk in terms of interdisciplinarity in our researches and efforts and projects. And then we went on to the extent of talking about multidisciplinarity. And now we are faced with a reality when we have started to talk about that transdisciplinarity kind of issues, in fact. And so far as India's scientific wisdom is concerned, there are no and there could be no denials to this reality that right since beginning, and even in the ancient times, India has been a scientific society, which is very well reflected in the kind of scholarship that we used to produce in the ancient times. Even in 5th century, the kind of universities, Nalanda, etc., that we gave to the world, and thousands of scholars from across the world used to come and take advantage of this mutuality of joint and collective learning, in fact, and collaborating for the joint learning exercises. I'm amazed and very happy to share, because most of us understand in the world of mathematics, the very introduction of zero, decimal, right, and even the discovery of atom, they belong to India, has been a basic contributor in innovation of all these. And I feel, as a student of economics and dealing with statistics and data kind of things all the time, had these things not been evolved in the history, then where our scientific understanding till date might have come up to, in fact. And it gives me immense pleasure to share with you that tertiary sector in Indian context, in the context of Indian policy making and society, has been performing extremely well. We all understand it, the share of tertiary sector in our gross domestic production is more than 60%. Normally it has ranged between 64 to 66%, in fact, over the last few years. And within that tertiary sector, the share that information technology, which comes now with still more value-added word, information and communication technology, has definitely done wonders to Indian economy, society, and the nation in all. In fact, if we could talk about the India's surplus sectors, in fact, we all understand, so far as trade and merchandise is concerned, India continues to have a secular deficit. Over the last several years, there have been only 2 occasions in our post-independence journey when we could generate a surplus in our trade and merchandise sector, but tertiary sector, especially the service area for the India, and where the major performer or the major actor has been information and communication technology. We have always laid trust on this sector. The kind of initiative that has been taken by this Institute of Mass Communication under the leadership of its very dynamic and more a friend of mine, that such efforts, such collaborative efforts which are going transdisciplinary in nature, in fact, I'm very happy to see, because I've always felt that knowledge is one, and extension of knowledge or gaining of further knowledge in a particular discipline leads to better understanding in several disciplines also. So I compliment the organizers for such a grand event, and I believe that this kind of knowledge dissemination, building and sharing would definitely involve a lot of mutuality of interest in days to come. So my compliments and thanks once again.